Hi, this is Brennan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm here with Adam Balderstone, and we are talking about Return of Condor Heroes, the 2006 drama series based on the book, and we're going to be discussing episodes 22 through 24. In these episodes, a lot happens. I think an easy way to describe what occurs is that we have people going to a lot of different locations in different configurations of groups. So, the episode opens with the cliffhanger where Yang Guo does decide to help Guo Jing, and then we have a really big plot point where the Wu brothers end up going out to impress Guo Fu. They sneak to the Mongolian encampment and get captured, and Yang Guo and Guo Jing have to go save them. And we also get a scene where they go to the Mongolian encampment, they rescue them, they send the Wu brothers back, and there's sort of this really almost polite meeting between Kublai and Guo Jing that has this undercurrent of real anger and hatred between them. It's a very interesting scene. Guo Jing is very righteous in this. I think this is probably the most righteous that we see Guo Jing in the series. And it's very notable. And in the book, I thought that was very well connected with how it played out in the book. But Yang Guo is still conflicted, and so he's still deciding, is he going to kill Guo Jing or not? And something happens when they're at the Mongolian encampment that really makes him change his mind, and he rescues Guo Jing at the last minute, and they flee, and they have to run back to the city. And while they're recovering, Zhao Longnu explains to Huang Rong, because she's basically figured out, what they're up to, that Yang Guo is poisoned with the passion flower, and that they were promised the antidote if they brought their heads back to Passionless Valley. And Huang Rong says, okay, you know what? If you help us contend with Jin Lun, because he's already announced that he's going to arrive, and he wants to further his relationship with Guo Jing, I'll give you my head willingly. And so they have like a really interesting conversation, Zhao Longnu and Huang Rong, and so Jin Lun arrives, and he brings flames, and he sets the place on fire, and Yang Guo decides to help distract the Mongols by fleeing from the city with a dead body, pretending that it's Guo Jing. And while this is happening, Huang Rong is having her babies in a burning building, and Guo Jing is still recovering from his injuries. It's a really crazy scene. Zhao Longnu is there, and you end up having this extended chase where Jin Lun corners Yang Guo, and then Zhao Longnu arrives, and she has one of Huang Rong's babies with her. And then as they're fighting, Li Mocho shows up, and she takes the baby and runs away with it. And then the rest of the episodes are basically dealing with Li Mocho on the road, and what ends up happening is, and again, I'm glossing over so much here.
Yeah, and of course, Li Mochu takes the baby, of course, because she believes that it's Yang Gao and Zhao Longnu's baby. So,
and she's very infuriated by this fact too, and but she and Yang Guo end up on the road together, basically trying to protect the baby from Jin Lun. They're sort of like, they have an unsteady alliance with each other because Jin Lun is the bigger threat against them. And so there's this whole scene where they're at a cave and they're cornered, and Yang Guo really impresses Li Mocho by setting a needle trap for Jin Lun and using all kinds of devious tricks. And then he ends up calling her, his senior. He sort of is respectful to her as a senior member of the sect, and he agrees to listen to what she says as long as she doesn't insult his master. And they end up needing to, so Jin Lun goes in the cave, he falls for the trap. Nemo Jing also falls for the trap, and he ends up losing his foot. And
he falls for the trap because Jin Lun let him into it.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah, and again, I have to emphasize, there's so many little interesting details here that I'm glossing over, which we're going to get back to.
Oh, sure.
But then Lee Mocho and Yango end up in the wilderness needing to find milk for the babies, so they subdue a leopard, or Yango subdues a leopard and feeds her milk. And then he ends up having this meeting with a condor. He finds this. It's called the Divine Condor in the books, and the condor is kind of like the disciple of this great swordsman named Dugu, who we've heard of in other Lewis Cha books. He's kind of this character that exists outside of the stories that you never actually see, and so Yangor is brought to the cave where this man has written a message about, you know, the loneliness of being the number one martial hero and not having any worthy foes. And they call him, I think his name is Dugu Seeking a Loss. He's looking for an opponent to, his title is like Demonic Swordsmaster Dugu Seeking a Loss. It's a very...
Yeah, I've forgotten about that part in the midst of everything else. Now you mention it. That was interesting.
Well, a lot. There was so much in this. So then Yango has his time with the condor, and it's wonderful. And he goes back and he finds Wu Santong, who's lamenting that his sons are fighting over Guafu, and then the Wu brothers show up, and Yango decides to trick them by saying that he is that they have no right to Guafu because she was promised to him, and Huang Rong likes him better than them anyways, which isn't untrue. At this point, that is basically a true statement. And so he antagonizes them until they attack him, and he eventually convinces them not to kill each other. Unfortunately, Xiaolong Nu has been listening in over, from a nearby ledge, unseen, and she thinks that Yango is declaring his affection for Guafu, and so she goes back to town. She gives her horse. I forget who she gives it to. Is it the scholar that she?
I think so. I'm not exactly sure who that was.
I think it's Juzilu, but I can't remember. But she gives him the horse and says, "Look, Yangor's in this valley. Go help him." And she's pretty much going to be leaving. And then after everything's settled with the Wu brothers, Santong and the Wu brothers say, "Look, what we really need to do is get revenge against Li Mocho for killing our mother." And then Li Mocho decides to announce herself and says, "Why walk to the ends of the earth? I'm here. I'm ready to fight." And she ends up fighting them with the baby in hand. And she retreats into the cave. She rides off on the tiger. She literally rides a tiger out of battle, and she throws needles at the Wu brothers. She gets both of them, and the father goes to suck out the poison. Yango stops him and freezes his acupoints, and then Yango ends up sucking out the poison himself. And then he collapses as Juzilu is arriving. And that's, I think, where the episode ended. Did I get all the big plot points, or did I miss anything?
I think you got all the big plot points. Yeah.
So that was like a 10-minute recap of all 3 episodes. Now, obviously, as Adam pointed out, I glossed over things. So, number one, what did you think of these episodes before we get into the specifics?
On the whole, I was really enjoying it. I mean, it was fun seeing the team up between Yang Guao and Li Mochu for being simultaneously being at odds and working together. That was a fun thing, and
I felt they had good chemistry too. The actor and actress in this particular case.
Yeah. I mean, you could see them kind of. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there was genuine respect between each other as they were working together. And I don't know. That was one of the highlights, definitely. I don't know. I'm not crazy about the whole Xiaolong Nu overhearing the conversation and misinterpreting it trope. But having her Mr. Furley moment. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But. It was a good scene though, despite that. Because on the one, I was ambivalent. Because on the one hand, I was like, oh, not the misunderstanding what's going on thing in a romantic story. But I was really at the same point enjoying Yang Gao's kind of trickery, his deception there, and like explaining, oh, I know all these techniques because my
Yeah.
mother-in-law taught them to me. And it was just calling back all these, his training with Huang and all this kind of stuff. So I was like it. So yeah, I was. The only point of the episode I was not enjoying, I was also enjoying for other reasons.
Well,
So.
and there's something interesting about that too, because I was struck by that when I first saw it, and this is the first version of the story that I encountered. So
Yeah.
that scene I remember being like, wow, that's kind of coincidental. That you're standing by that rock. At the same time, I've come to appreciate that aspect of it. One of the funny things that you get in this is you get this really enormous martial world, like this sense that it's like all of China and more, and even like the nooks and crannies that like exist within it. But it's really all about like a small group of characters and their interactions with each other. And so
Yeah.
it might as well be occurring on a stage in a lot of respects. And
Oh yeah.
and I think there's two things driving that. Number one, it's just sort of the nature of the drama that's going on. But number two, there is sort of this sense that it's sort of like everybody's got like these faded connections, and characters are like magnets to one another. And so
Oh, it wasn't the point that she showed up. Like I said, I
it
had
was
no
the
problem with
misunderstanding that bothered you.
I mean, her show. I mean, she was out there looking for them anyway. So her showing up made sense. It's partly a misunderstanding, and it's partly, it just comes down to the fact that nobody ever talks about things in a lot of stories. Sometimes it's like, you're just gonna. It's like it just kind of makes their love look so less strong that it's like she's like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna leave, and it's I don't know.
I get you. Well, I think one thing is in this genre,
Oh, I
misunderstandings.
know it's a genre. I know it's
Yeah.
a genre thing. I just.
But yeah, if they just sat down and talked it out, obviously they would.
For 30 seconds.
Yeah, they could resolve this. Hey, did you really mean what you said just now? Would cover a lot of ground in that situation.
I mean, I guess it was kind of clever that they had the whole him knowing these martial arts she didn't know he knew to give it credibility. I mean, they did a better job with this than some, because basically I could see her buying the evidence that it's like, I don't think she knew that he knew either of those techniques.
Well, one of the things that did strike me about that scene, I remember when I first saw it, I imagined it being much shorter, but it really was a very long scene. She's sitting there for a while watching this unfold, and she is getting these different expressions on her face. So you get the sense that she is digesting all of this and sort of thinking it through. The action she commits to, though, I think the part that bothers me about it is she knows Yang Guo is dying and has like 2 days to live at this point.
Exactly.
So it's not like she's like selflessly going off and he's going to be able to be with Guo Fu. The guy is poisoned, right? So
he's not going to be marrying Guo Fu at all. She knows that. Yeah, exactly.
But Zhao Longnu's not like she's not like super intelligent like Yang Guo or Huang Rong.
She's just not good at she lacks social intelligence.
Yeah.
Definitely. She's smart in some ways, but it's like she does, living in the abandoned tomb there just did not give her great social.
Well, and one thing that you might like that results from this misunderstanding is she gets to spend some time with Zhu Batong, and it's kind
okay.
of. And it's
you've now sold me on it. Okay.
And it's kind of contrasted with the time that Li Mocho got to spend with Yang Guo. Like they each kind of go off and have like a very similar moment with each other. Do you know what I mean? It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And so I think you'll like it. I don't know. We'll see.
That sounds promising.
But see, I thought the thing that would annoy you this episode was the Wu brothers. I thought the Wu brothers would have been getting under your skin for all of their shenanigans.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the Wu brothers are the Wu brothers. I mean, that's what you expected the Wu brothers. They were, like I said, it's just Zhao Longnu was disappointing me by just, the Wu brothers cannot disappoint you. That's their thing.
Yeah, because they screw everything up by sneaking out and getting captured because they're trying to impress Guo Fu. And then even when they get back, they don't seem to realize like the risks everybody took on their behalf, and like it just doesn't register. Like you guys are still arguing in a petty way about Guafu. I don't remember how the show resolves it, but the way that they handle Huang Rong's dealings with the matter, I quite like in the story. I don't recall if this if we're gonna get that or not, but when we get there, I'll be sure to comment. But I'm just, I guess also you can sort of try to see it from their point of view, which is suddenly this Yanguo guy shows up, and like they were like number one in the world. You know what I mean? Like their world is like Guojing, Huang Rong, and Guafu. That's it. That's pretty much what they know. And occasionally, Huang Yaoshi, and this guy shows up, and he's kind of like getting all the praise all of a sudden and getting all the attention. And so I guess in their small world you can see how they're feeling, and they're kind of a microcosm of what's going on in the martial world, because they're having all these petty disputes as the Mongols are literally threatening the life of their master. And the and on a broader level, all of the martial world is having that experience as the Mongols are threatening the very existence of China. So there's this really cool, almost like, like Russian doll thing going on with the story. But yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I found myself when I was in the book, especially, but even here, the Wu brothers just infuriate me for some reason.
Oh yeah. No, the Wu brothers are infuriating. They're not, but the thing is, it's not a problem I'm having with the story at all. It's like the story's working great. That's exactly that's everything working exactly as intended to.
That's true. It was by design.
I mean the Wu brothers are just entertaining. Like you say, they pretty much almost everything that goes wrong in this episode is because of the Wu brothers. It's like if the Wu brothers had done nothing, everything was in a great situation. You wouldn't have had Gao Feng get you wouldn't have had them getting abducted. You wouldn't have had anyone getting injured. You wouldn't have had it's just Jin Lun would not have snuck into the city to take advantage of the injuries. The baby wouldn't have gotten kidnapped. Li Mochu wouldn't have taken the baby. It's everything is their fault.
What did you think of the meeting between Kublai Khan and Guo Jing?
That was a great scene. Yeah. No, I mean Guo Jing. Like you say, that was a big noble moment for him. I mean, I really like Guo Jing in this version of the story. He just has that simplicity of the character, but he's just so admirable at the same time, and it's a great combination.
Well, and before he leaves, he says, Huang Rong says, well, like, am I, what's more important, me or the country? And he says the country. Yeah. She doesn't lose respect for him when he says that. It's a very.
I got the impression that was the answer she was looking for. Maybe it's just me, but I felt like she was.
I think so, but I think also what's going on is he's kind of like this is stuff where he's kind of showing them the way. Do you know what I mean? And like even though I know like Huang Ron is much smarter than him, but he's kind of like his sort of like you said, like his simplicity as a character is that he can sort of arrive at these like essential necessary truths for the other people. And so it's I don't know it's an interesting scene because it's her I thought the reaction on her face was very I don't know it just there was something about it that you like it. On the one hand your respect for Guo Jing goes up, but your respect for Huang Rong goes up in that moment, because in a lot of other characters in that scene would have snapped at him. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
And
I get what you're saying. I made the comment that I felt like the answer she was looking for, but maybe she wasn't. But either way, she it was a very positive response to that
I,
answer.
I, I feel like she said something new to him that she didn't expect, but
Mm.
she responded positively to it rather than negatively, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I need
Um,
to look at this scene again and take a look. But either way, either interpretation, I think it played really well.
but the
And
but and again the whole just the whole way that they're like I like that there's this really polite sort of superficial way that they're interacting with the Mongolians, and it's reciprocated. Like when Jinlun, when they escape and Jinlun goes after them, he sends a letter saying, I only just got to know Guojing, and now I want to further
yeah,
our friendship, and so I'll be arriving tomorrow, and I hope to, and it's very polite, but like he's a menacing character. And it just makes it so much more frightening. Like if the letter was
yeah,
really enraged, it would have been less scary. But that he was so calm and collected in writing that you're like, oh my god, what is he planning? Like, and the book, there were a lot of other details that we didn't see unless they come up later on, and I'm misremembering when they occur. But like when Huadu arrives, if I recall, Huang Rong spills some tea on him and tells him that she's like afflicted him with bone eating poison or something. And so we get to see some of Huang Rong's cleverness too in
uh-huh.
it's always nice to get, because I feel like there's a lot of moments where we get to see Yangor's cleverness shining, and in the book you get a real sense of contrast between him and Huang Rong, constantly pulling these little tricks out of their pocket. Um, but one of the things I think we're also seeing now is that Guofu definitely did not inherit her mother's clever nature.
No,
And I feel like she inherited the worst characteristics of her parents.
she
Is
did. Yeah,
um
yeah. She's got the simplicity and the but yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to put it, but no, she is not a good combination.
and and so we also get the scene where Huang Rong takes Xiao Long Nu aside when they're recovering, and it's like, look, I know that you two are trying to kill us because he thinks that we killed his father. And she says it's much more complicated. I'll explain everything when there's time. And Xiao Long Nu is not a tricky person. She doesn't understand. So she basically admits everything, and
Yeah.
and is very sort of upfront about her feelings. And when she explains the situation, Huang Rong is like, okay, I'll give you my head on a platter. Just protect us from Jinlun. And again, I think that's a very significant scene
That's pretty
yeah.
significant. Yeah, I was not expecting that. But the backtrack, I've refined my point about Guafu. It's that she's got the simplicity of her father, and she's got the game playing. She likes to play
Yeah,
games in the way that Huang Rong likes to play games,
yeah,
but they're not clever games.
yeah.
It's
She's
like her
not as
whole her whole
good.
relationship to the Wu brothers is that she likes to play games with the Wu brothers, but they're stupid
Yeah,
games.
she's playing checkers, and everybody else is playing chess. And it's just and it's just, I don't know, it's just very interesting to see the heroic couple undermined by their daughter in this way.
hmm
um
hmm
but
I'm sorry, but yeah, getting back to the scene with
oh, and it just
with Huang.
and Huang Rong is like, look, I understand, like, you love Yangguo so much that you'd be willing to sacrifice yourself for him, and that's how I feel about Guo Jing. And so it's kind of a reminder that, like, hey, you guys remember you were reading about Guo Jing and Huang Rong before. They were the main characters in the first story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just love the way that these characters have aged, because it's just the right level of distance from where they were in the first story, and it's enough distance that they can serve multiple purposes. They can be antagonistic when they need to towards Yanguo and Zhao Longnu, but they can also become these beacons for the characters. And so I don't know. I mean, I comment on this a lot, but I think it's one of the real strong suits of this of
It
these two
is.
books.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could go wrong either way. It's like you wouldn't want to see them just be the antagonists, but if they were too beaconish, they'd just become kind of these icons rather than characters, and you'd be
Yeah.
like, well, they remain interesting human characters despite having become beacons.
And oftentimes it's the very things that make them interesting as characters that is sort of working against them. Like
Yeah,
Huang Rong's cleverness is real. Like it's really what kind of created that gulf between her and Yango in the first place. If she had just
yeah,
accepted him and not
yeah.
overthought it, she would have probably had a much better relationship with him. Um, and it's also interesting that so much of what goes on in Yango's life is his relate like the different things that are happening with him and his aunties. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the way that Li Mocho is described in the translation I have, he calls her his senior martial uncle, his senior martial auntie. Do you know what I mean? And Huang Rong is his auntie. Google, even Zhao Long Nu he calls auntie, and so there's this.
Yeah.
You know, but we get again we get and one of the scenes that you commented on that you liked was the cave scene with Li
Mhm.
Mocho and Yanguo. And I think there's a lot of interesting things going on with Li Mocho in these scenes. Number one, she ends up taking the baby, and she thinks it's Yango and Zhao Long Nu's baby, and she basically berates them for their for having this filthy offspring of their incestuous love, and.
Yeah.
And again, it's just you have to keep in mind the fact that she's like massacred people, this lady, and she's moralizing on on you know but she's very sincere, I think, in this rebuke. I think she is
Oh,
legitimately
yeah.
outraged. Um,
No, it is something that matters to her. I say one of my favorite Lee Mochu moments is like how, those moments where they show she's just never as smart as she thinks she is when they're in the cave. And Yang Gao is like, he's standing next to her. He just calls out, "Aha! I found an exit." She's
yeah,
like, "Oh, great, where is it?" And then
yeah,
he's like, "No,
yeah.
no, I'm playing a trick."
Yeah, no, that those scenes were great. Those scenes, yeah, he ends up tricking the Jin Loon into thinking that they kill him, but she eventually does figure it out, and she starts playing along. And it's interesting to watch because the thing that I was thinking about during that scene is when they're pretending to kill each other, she probably could have used that opportunity to actually kill him if she really wanted to. Um,
Yeah.
you know, uh, some of it obviously is for survival, but I think there's still the residual respect because they belong to the same sect, and
Yeah.
um,
So,
and but the other thing, and this is more clear in the book than it is in this episode, when Lee Mocho takes the baby, I think at one point in the battle, she saves the baby as it's falling, like the baby is falling to the ground. She grabs it, and it triggers like a motherly instinct in her. And so I don't know if it was apparent, but she doesn't really have the same malice towards this baby that she does towards the rest of the world. Um,
yeah.
and it's still not like it's not like as selfless as Huang Rong's affection for the baby, but for Li Mocho, it's a pretty substantial shift in nature. Um,
Yeah.
like in the book, and I don't. Again, maybe we'll see this later, but I think they glossed over here. In the book, she's looking for milk for the baby, and she finds a woman with a child, and the woman refuses to help, and she just kills them both. And it kind of contrasts the fact that well, she's willing to kill a child, but this child in particular, she is protecting.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, she's willing to kill because someone will give the baby milk. Yeah, but yeah, it is that was pretty evident to me on the show that there is some certain maternal instinct kicking in with her there that she doesn't that I'm not sure she's entirely thinking through necessarily on a conscious level.
well, yeah, because we
But
did see her smile at the baby once, right? Like she smiled and kind of gently like said something to it that you would like some kind of silly thing you would say to a baby to placate it.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's not typical Lee Mocho behavior. Um, so
No, no, not at all. But but she's still Imochu nonetheless.
No, well, and again, I think, I mean, I'm really going to be curious when her storyline is played out, how you feel about it. But
Uh-huh.
I think she's just one of the best characters in the whole series. And
Yeah, well, you talk about the crazy coincidental characters running into each other. Limo Chu in these series of episodes just totally comes out of
yeah,
nowhere, but I in no way care. It's like, oh, great, Limo Chu is here.
yeah, in fact, I thought that was the thing that made that scene work so great, because suddenly, like, you have this, you're like, oh my god, he's fighting Jin Loon, and Xiaolong Nu's there with the baby's gonna get hurt, and then out of nowhere, Li Mocho shows up, and it's just like, whoa, I was not, like, never in a million years did I expect, like, I had just forgotten about Li Mocho, like, I had just reached the point where I forgot about her, and now she's being introduced again, and
Yeah, that was fantastic use of a character just popping up, literally flying out of the sky at you.
and I like the whole scene where Jin Loon is chasing Yango, and Yango, goes up against the wall, and Jin Loon tries to trick him. Do you know?
Yeah, Yangal's just not buying that. He's like, "Oh, this is one of my moves. I know what you're doing."
but then Jin Loon's clever when Yango doesn't take the bait. Jin Loon sees Jiao Long Nu, and then
Yeah,
he's able to, so he still is able to pull a
it's
deception.
yeah,
Um,
it's a measure. It's like, oh, if you're gonna pull, well, you're talking again. It's like Zhao Long Nu is not great on social
yeah,
intelligence. So if you're gonna pull that kind of a trick, oh, don't pull it on Yangao. Pull it on Zhao Long
yeah.
Nu. She'll fall for it.
Yeah, because if you threaten Yangor, she's going to be there. That's like you know.
Yeah, yeah,
So it was an interesting battle, and then it just doesn't stop, and it's almost impossible to give an accurate account of everything that happens because everybody is moving this whole time, and as they're moving, they're sort of regrouping into different configurations. Like it's like, and I hate to sound so technical, but that's just kind of what's going on. It's like Yangor is being chased by Jin Loon, then Zhao Long Nu shows up, then Zhao Long Nu departs, I think, somehow, and then it's Li Mocho and Jin. It's just all these different clusters of characters. Then Nemo Jing arrives, and again, it's very interesting to watch the Mongolian mercenaries constantly undermine each other because they're
yeah.
chasing that champion of Mongolia title, and
Yeah, my one disappointment with that was that they didn't fight over the corpse longer. I was like, oh man, are they gonna like really go at each other and fight over this before they know there's a corpse? But they caught on pretty quickly.
that was a very good use of a dead body, I thought,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and yeah.
Jinlun almost instantly is like, wait, this is a fake.
And then Nemo Jung ends up losing. Jin Loon really tricks him badly. He pretends that he didn't walk into the cave and get hit with the needle, and he lets Nemo Jung walk in, saying, "Oh, I think I heard them drop dead or something. Or I think the smoke caused them to pass out." And immediately Nemo Jung tries to seize the opportunity, and then he steps on the needle, and then they end up fighting because Nemo Jung realizes he's been tricked, and they fall off a cliff. And when Nemo Jung comes to, Jin Loon is like, "Oh, your leg is really bad looking," and Nemo Jung, without a thought, takes a big stone and just severs his leg with this.
I
I mean,
know.
it's the most brutal thing I've ever seen or read. It's
Amputation by using a big, huge rock is, I don't know. That just seems like it would create as many medical
yeah.
problems as it would solve.
Yeah, that is just and it's like right on the shin. It's like
Yeah.
it was just the worst. Oh, I can't imagine. I can't imagine the pain. And neither can he because he passes out right away when he does it.
Uh-huh.
And it's funny because Jin Loon has this expression of like respect on his face, like wow, I didn't
Oh.
think he was going to do that. Um,
No, that was brutal. But yeah, it is funny though the things that really trigger your sympathetic pain because it's like people are getting hit with swords all the stuff in time in the show, but it's like the stepping on the needles. It's just like oh
yeah.
man, that looks like it really hurts.
Yeah, certain things just look like they hurt more than others. What did
Yeah.
you think of the condor, by the way? Because this is the first time we see the condor, right? And
Yeah, yeah. I don't have a huge impression of the Condor yet. I mean, it was interesting, but I don't know. I don't. I'm not familiar enough with the Condor element of these books. It's like nothing I saw of the original. The adaptations I've seen of the original story touched on condors at all. So I'm kind of oblivious to the whole.
Well, the Huang Rong and Guo Jing are associated with two condors in the story, and you know how like they're like when in, I think they addressed it in this version when Huang Rong and Guo Jing arrive, their
Yeah,
condors arrive first. Do you mean? So
yeah,
that's how you
yeah.
know that they're condors.
That's the
Um,
first time I've seen condors in any adaptation of
so
either of these books.
So in the original Legend of Condor Heroes, those two condors are actually present. Now they're just birds, you know what I mean? They're not like anything. So they're just two regular birds. And in
Yeah.
this one, it's divine condors. This giant. I mean, this is. I mean, wouldn't you say it's a pretty big bird? That's big bird sized bird.
That's yeah, maybe a little shorter than Big Bird, but it's up there.
But it's also clearly kind of intelligent. Like it had like
Yeah,
it's not like supernatural. I mean, it is, but only to the degree that you see supernatural stuff in romance novels. Do you know what I mean? Like historical romance novels, not to the degree that you see in fantasy. If this were a
yeah,
fantasy book, he would be breathing fire and all kinds of crazy things. And this is like a much more mundane level of supernatural. It's exceptional. He's an exceptional. You can explain him as an exceptional condor without having to venture into the supernatural, like a rare condor that has emerged in this world, but still of this world. Do you know what I mean?
sure.
And but I don't know. I'm just and I don't know how much of the backstory you absorbed from this, but basically, this condor was the only companion of Dugu. And Dugu is the guy who carved those words into the wall. And Yango goes to his tomb and pays his respects. And we're getting it because it'll be important later on.
Yeah, that's kind of what I feel. It's like I don't quite have an opinion on it yet, but it did feel significant, like it was laying groundwork for something down the road. So, yeah, like I said, I don't have a strong opinion, but it was cool. It was an interesting scene. I enjoyed it.
And yeah, so I mean, did we cover everything? I feel like we've
Did
covered
we?
most of it.
What are we forgetting here? I know we have to be forgetting something.
I mean, there was a lot, so it's quite likely we forgot something. Um,
Yeah. Well, of course, there's the whole. Well, I don't know. We've kind of touched on the Wu brothers attack, fighting each other. Yeah, we did kind of talk about that earlier, just significantly out of order. But yeah, I enjoyed that scene a lot. Um, yeah, once again, it was a good cliffhanger. I was like, when it ended, I'm
wait,
like, man.
wait till you see the next episode. It is the way that they handle where this guy again. The misunderstand. So obviously, the pattern here is Zhao Longnu and Yang Guo keep departing from each other for a variety of reasons, always misunderstandings, it seems.
Yeah.
And so we have yet another misunderstanding. But where they go is going to be quite interesting. I think we're going to get some closure on certain things. We're going to get some. We're just going to get some really eccentric stuff in the mix, and Yango is going to have some very unusual things going on with that poison.
Okay.
And so it's I think you're going to like where that goes. It's just a very interesting little twist. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. But it's also interesting. Like Yango is now in a position where he's very like he is like Huang Rong super respects Yango at this point. This is and I think it's not a small thing to have the two chief characters from the previous novel basically think the world of the main character at this stage in the story.
Yeah, well, he had to. I mean, well, obviously he's always had Guao Jing's respect. Guao Jing's been unreservedly admiring of him, but earning Huang Rong's respect felt like an accomplishment. That.
Well, I think the big change for him now is he now has respect for Guo Jing, whereas he didn't have that before. Do you know what I mean? Like Guo Jing has always respected him, and now he's reciprocating that respect.
Yeah. You're right. That is a difference.
And that's kind of at the point where Kwong Rong really starts to like Yango. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of what motivates her seems to be how people behave towards Guo Jing, which goes back to the again, I don't think you see it quite as much in Brave Archer, but you definitely see it in the books and in the adaptations in the drama series where she's very protective of Guo Jing, and so I think that's because again, Guo Jing's he's very capable and he's very heroic, but because he is sometimes easily tricked, she's sort of always using her cleverness to protect him, and so I don't know. It's very interesting developments.
And I'm intrigued to see what happens. You got me interested in what happens with Xiaolong Nu too, because one thing I've noticed is so far when they've split up, it's I feel like Yang Guo's gotten the more exciting stories. Not that what happened with Xiaolong Nu isn't interesting. I mean, the whole Passionless Valley story was pretty interesting, but it wasn't an exciting story up till the point that Yang Guo arrives and things get heated. But it's like it sounds like Xiaolong Nu is going to have more exciting adventures this time.
She does have more exciting adventures. Now keep in mind it is still Xiaolong Nu, and Xiaolong Nu is much more low energy than Yang Guo, so like
that's true.
Yang Guo is just happy to be there. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of like he sort of takes everything as it comes and he can engage it fully. And Xiaolong Nu is a lot more reserved and serious, and so even when something exciting is happening around her, it's maybe not. It doesn't have the same vibe as when Yang Guo is in the midst of excitement.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yang
Guo brings the party with him.
Yeah. Well, Yang Guo, he is very, extreme in his emotions. He's really happy, really sad. Xiaolong Nu is always very centered because her whole style it requires that you be emotionally centered. It's all about not being super emotional, and Yang Guo is just the complete opposite of that. So that's a good point. And it's not like I haven't enjoyed the Xiaolong Nu stories or anything. It's just like I'd like to see, I don't know. We'll see. We'll talk about what happens when it happens. But so we'll be back on probably over the weekend or something. I have to look at our schedule and see what's up, but we'll be back on with some more episodes. And you expressed interest in the original Legend of Condor Heroes, so.
I've been. I'd like to watch the original 1983 one if I can get a hold of a copy, and I've glanced at the 2017 version for one episode. So
yeah, I saw the first like 2 or 3 episodes of that one, and they were. I think it was the first 2. I don't remember how far I got, but I thought it looked good, and I think my problem was I just. I don't know. I've already seen the older versions of it, and I'm pretty well satisfied with those.
Yeah, so. I understand. It's I mean, it's funny because I've been looking at other things too. It's like I've been doing this thing of watching multiple versions. I've been watching like Little Dragon Maiden the movie, and I've been watching I've got the Brave Archer and his mate, and it's like I'm getting all these different versions of the same story over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, you can never go wrong with like a good solid series because you'll get the complete experience, and obviously the book is is the best way to encounter the original material.
Sure,
but I think I think the early '80s series and the was it 2003 or 2001 there was a series, and a lot of people like I think there was 1 or 2 in the 90s that people really praise. I've just had a lot of trouble finding it with subs, but I know that those are very popular. So but yeah, I don't know, we'll see. If you get into it, we'll maybe bring it on the podcast. We'll see what happens, but
sure.
I think I don't know. They are very complementary stories, so I can sort of understand why you're seeking these things, because now that you're getting sort of like the hints of the depth in this version, it must be very intriguing.
It is,
And
and it's also because I don't want to watch ahead of the podcast too. So I get to my last episode. It's
mhm.
like last night. I'm like, oh, big cliffhanger. Well,
uh,
let me go watch some of the original series. Well, and see what happened back then rather than
okay.
go forward.
Yeah, because there is the Brave Archer was very good, but it glosses over certain things out of
Sure.
necessity, and so like a lot of the stuff that might be perplexing is the Mongolian connection because that's not really addressed in full in Brave Archer,
Yeah,
and
and I think the Brave Archer series is a great introduction to the whole series because because it is so kind of quick and breezy and you're getting kind of an overview and you get it's a good introduction to all the characters too in a quick easy way. So I don't in any way regret starting with that, but now I am curious about getting into all the fine detail at this point.
yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's like there are just so many characters and so many little plot beats and details and important techniques and techniques that are important in this story that that call back to the first story. So it's always kind of helpful to have that stuff in your head, I guess. Um,
Yeah, and I
but
mean, having an acting background too. In acting classes, one of my favorite things always was when we'd have like a week where we'd all be paired up, we'd all be given the same scene, and go off and practice, and we'd come back, and every pair would do the same scene. I always loved that because it was fun seeing how
mm,
all these different people would interpret the same scene. So I'm just enjoying watching these different versions
mm.
of the same story. But
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that's interesting when you especially with a series because a lot of times they'll line up really well because they're all roughly the same length. Do you know what I
mhm.
mean? So it's and some of these scenes seem to like be more iconic than others. So when you get to them, you kind of like, oh yeah, it's the inn scene with the big giant a wine vessel. They're so yeah, it's like I don't know in Brave Archer. I guess we didn't we oh no we did get the backstory, but we didn't get the in scene, right? So there's a lot of little details that were glossed over in the very beginning of the story that are really important
Right?
when
In Brave Archer, we didn't get the in scene.
oh
The
so when the seven freaks were introduced in Brave Archer,
mm,
they weren't introduced as at an inn in a fight with the Taoist priest. Uh, the
yeah,
backstory is much more elaborate in the
yeah,
original
they
story.
haven't showed up in the 2017 series yet that
Okay.
I've seen.
Oh,
So
they should be in within the first two or three episodes, I think.
I've only watched the first episode.
Oh,
So
okay, okay. Well, I'll stop speaking in case I spoil something.
okay, but yeah,
The
that was something that struck me. I'm like, where are they? Why haven't they shown up
oh
yet?
oh
So
yeah,
yeah,
that's
that's been one of those points. Because the thing is, as I haven't read the books too, I'm like, I'm not sure which is more accurate. I'm like, well, is this less or is this more
well
accurate?
that's the other reason to read the books. One
Well,
thing that
I
I
will do that. I'm going to be doing that too. So
here's again everybody should do this how they want. I don't think you have to read the books,
no, you
but yeah,
must. Everyone listening to this
yeah.
pod, don't listen to another episode till you've read. No, no.
But the method I like to use, if I can, and if I like, obviously time doesn't always allow for this unless you have to read the book in a single, like in a sitting over a week rather than spread it out. But
Yeah,
what I like to do sometimes is I like to read the book as I'm watching the show
yeah,
or watching the movie, and I just find it really they pair well together when you do it that way. And it's so like
yeah,
I'll read a chapter and then I'll try to watch up through that chapter, and number one, it's good for just remembering because sometimes it can be difficult to remember all the characters.
yeah.
But number two, it just kind of keeps me more invested in the whole process. It's like I feel I have more fuel to sort of really commit to a series if I'm reading the book.
Yeah, yeah. But no, you've brought up to me how with the series I've got the advantage, that with the reading the book, it's so much harder to track the characters when you're just tracking names on a page
Yeah.
when someone shows up. I mean, when a character comes back in the show, it's like I always remember who they are. It's like I don't need to remember the names. I see the person, I'm like, oh, it's this
It's
guy.
that guy. Yeah, that's the thing. In the show, you can say that guy, and in the book, you can't do that. You have to go by the
Yeah.
name, so it can get. If you confuse characters, it can get what. I
And
will say
that character list on Wikipedia is dangerous too, because sometimes it's like there's one line next to their name. You're like, who's this character? And then it's like, oh, this character dies horribly when this person does this. And you're like, oh, that's the only thing I didn't want to know about them. And then the only fact that we'll give about them. And you're like, ah.
I would generally say avoid Wikipedia until you finished a book or a show, because you can run into that problem. And also Wikipedia is ever changing, so you don't know if you can be misled by Wikipedia too. Because I've had experiences where I've never had this problem with Legends or Return, but I think I had it with Semi-Gods and Demi-Devils, where characters were misdescribed or confused. And I don't remember what show it was, but that can happen, and you can it's always better to go to it directly, and just use that as a reminder. But yeah, I think I think the book is it's number one. For people that are listening and haven't been following us for very long, the Legend of Condor Heroes book has been released officially in print, at least the first volume. And so if anybody that's interested can go and check out A Hero Born, and they'll get they'll get a follow at least the first 9 chapters of the story. Anything else beyond that, you'll have to go through fan translation. But it's well worth reading. It's a very interesting story, and yeah. So I think that we'll talk more about that in future episodes. Maybe we'll get into the books or something. And also, me and Kenny did a read through of Return of Condor Heroes. So if anybody wants to, they can check out me and Kenny's read through of every. I think we did like 5 chapters at a time, and it's 40 chapters. So there are parts where we get where we get our names mixed up, or we do. I wouldn't count on it as a record. But it's a pretty good way to, if you don't want to read the books, you can listen to us talk about what happens, and you might get something from it.
Don't cite the podcast in your research papers.
Yeah, definitely don't. It's just me and Kenny talking, but it's us talking right after we read 5 of the chapters at a time. The podcast is as reliable as me and Kenny's memories. That's how I'll put it. And so we'll be back on later in the week. We're going to cover Wing Chun with Michelle Yeoh on Friday, and me and Lady Chow Fung are going to have a special Iron Triangle podcast, which I'm looking forward to. And I'm also going to be doing a review of the Flying Guillotine movie. So there's that to look forward to as well. But I'm going to be doing that on the Shaw Brothers site. So. But I'll maybe be doing some kind of supplement on the podcast. And until then, we will talk to you later.